I'm Travis Keller, and you're watching For Art's Sake. My name is Travis Keller, and welcome to my show, Domesticated, at Gertz Gallery, Parkland College. I was born in Las Vegas, Nevada, and then I moved from there to Arkansas, where I went to middle school, high school, and then I got my bachelor's, my BFA, at the University of Arkansas. And then I moved to Buffalo, New York after a residency program, Chautauqua residency, Chautauqua Institution. And then I moved to Buffalo from there, where I maintained a gallery for about 6 years. During that time, I was living with my partner Mel and our animals, our pets, Harvey and Hermione. You'll see both of them featured heavily in all of the works. To start with this painting, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to make while in grad school at the University of Illinois, Champaign-Urbana. And I had been making so many different experimentations in abstract cityscapes. They were very dystopian, but they were very vibrant. And I was just kind of teaching myself how to paint. So when I was trying to discover what I wanted to paint, I knew I wanted to re-engage with the figure, and I was kind of given an assignment to do something every day that wasn't for art. And so I started dancing when I got home as a way to kind of relieve stress of daily life. And I realized that this was kind of a stage and a setting that I had put together that was very me. And so of course, the thing that I wasn't supposed to make a painting about, I made a painting about. And I started with video, and so I had been doing this over and over. I kind of already knew where I wanted the camera to be. So I set it up. I usually kind of close my eyes while I'm dancing, and I'm just kind of feeling the music. And I noticed Harvey walk into frame and just sit down and watch me and wait. So this kind of started this idea of looking at moments in my life that are repeating and trying to experience them fully. While I was in grad school, Mel and I were living apart, and so I would go and visit her. She was also going to grad school, and this painting is about that time, going there, visiting her, and I was trying to extend that moment just of spring break when we got to be together by taking some photos and imagining like this is something that she would be doing every day, while I might be doing something similar, or we might not be communicating, but I could be engaging with that and kind of also remembering it. And of course, taking the photo of Mel, Hermione walked into frame. So this piece is titled Distractions, Herm Loved Belly Rubs. It started out very different. It was the first painting that I actually painted in grad school that was figurative. And I had these buildings in like two windows. And the windows were open so you could see outside in this dystopic landscape. And it was all on fire, so I was kind of burning down the work that I had made in the past. So in a similar thing, like thinking about light and these daily moments, but I hadn't really figured a lot out yet. I had made multiple paintings, and then I got so far in and Hermione died, and I realized I didn't have a lot of images of me and her, or at least paintings that I had made. It was just this one, and I never really finished this painting entirely, so I repainted her. I painted out those cityscapes, even though one is kind of still lurking in the back there. It's made to look more like a painting on the wall. And I was kind of torn because it was this moment of me not paying attention to her. But I knew that, of course, she was getting all the attention all the time. Whenever I took this photo on my camera roll, this other photo was within the same day. So I superimposed it, and originally it was supposed to be a painting that I was just going to sketch it out with some oil pastel, because it kind of mixes with the oil paint pretty well. But as I started working, I realized oil pastel just felt so much different than oil paint on a visual and textural level that I just broke out the whole set and started building this drawing up. So it kind of sits on the surface of the painting in a different way. And it's also this collage element that we'll see in other paintings implemented in different ways. So this piece is titled Herm, View from My Perch. So it's in the perspective of our cat Hermione, sitting on the back of the couch. And again, I had visited Mel many times while we lived apart, and I was sitting here with Hermione, and Mel turned off the lights to, for us to get ready for bed and all of that. And I noticed these 3 light sources all lay on top of each other. So we have, or kind of, I guess, run perpendicular of each other. So we have this weird light source coming from behind that couch from the window outside. It's kind of this green light for some reason that they had out there that would kind of push through. And then the light from the bedroom emanating out, and then the moonlight outside coming through. And I just was thinking about how this could happen, again, every day. And it felt very magical in the moment, and I took the photos kind of just as they were happening, and there was no setup, really. Mel walked across, I took a few photos, and that was it. It kind of reminds me of different silhouettes in movies. My favorite movie is Punch Drunk Love, and that movie talks about like love and like being yourself around that specific person when you can't be yourself around other people. And I was thinking about that a lot. And then it also has these like transitional periods of playing music and showing just bits of color. So it was all happening kind of in this moment, and all of these like interests and things that I care about and the movie I love so much, like all like reminded me, or I was reminded of all of those things at the same time. And I feel like the painting is very fluid in how the light kind of bounces around and interacts with each other. And I think that light is a character in all of the works. Both of these paintings featuring pets. Over here we have, it's called Long Distance Rewatch, and Mel and I were living apart still, and we would like watch things together through FaceTime. So we have like the iPad there with Mel, and then there's that distance between us. We can't really interact in the same way. And then also at the same time, Harvey was getting pretty old, and that distance between the floor and the couch for him got much further. I couldn't just like have him jump up. I would have to pick him up and put him there. And if he was thinking about jumping up, I would have to bring him back down. So there is that like distance there for him. And then this painting happened shortly after Hermione had passed, and it was kind of this homage to her, but also, remembering just like how strange it was to be like holding a phone and that being like an important moment. Taken soon before she passed. It was like the last photo I took of her. But Mel's there. They were happy. I know that. But I think that with pets, we have to like impart so much of ourselves onto them. So whenever we lose them, we're kind of losing something of ourselves. And they're not just in these paintings. They're not just pets and like objects. They are something that we can see ourselves in, but also that we interacted with and had relationships with, that were very important in my life. And I think that everyone kind of has pets that, or not everyone, but a lot of people have pets and feel the same way. And it's just this strange thing that we do by not being able to communicate with another animal and trusting that that animal feels a certain way. All right, this painting titled "The Spaces in Between." Harvey was getting old. It was kind of that time for him to pass. We knew that it was coming, and I could start to feel these daily paths that we took adding up so much more, like they meant so much more that like whenever he would just look at me, I felt like I needed to give him attention. But we still had so much of our lives that we had to interact with. So the light as a character, but also as something to like turn on and off every day. And then that time for him kind of being limited. Mel and I had finally started living together, so our paths were, we were walking similar paths in our spaces and not just thinking about the similar parallels between our lives in different places. It was running together and kind of figuring that out. The collage being so important in this piece because I hadn't really shown a lot of my process in making images until now. It had been a lot of hiding the process, and now I just had decided that I was going to show that process. So I had made another painting before this where I had taken a bunch of images and then cut them up and then put them together. And so I thought that I can do that here. I'm also very interested in comic books, so I thought if I'm giving light as a character, I could literally have an object that emits light being a focal point, and like showing that those steps taken to turn on the light. So I had made a lot of paintings in grad school, and I was kind of looking forward to being done. And Mel and I had been living together, and we'd started to figure out those routines of living together. And I always woke up first and made the coffee. And I think that just the ritual happening, kind of naturally happening, felt really important to me. And waking up in the morning, and she would come and wrap her arms around me as I was making coffee, and that had started to happen more frequently. We'd gotten a new cat. She's hiding here in the painting. And using the collage element of the paint, these cutouts, to extend time for a very short moment instead of like trying to show a lot of time, actually showing a small amount of time, but trying to extend that. And I think I was trying to do that in other ways in other paintings, but here I can actually do that on a visual level. But fun things also happen with the composition, like the doubling of the cabinets and trying to figure out how to justify some of those cutouts. Sometimes they're representations of what I was actually looking at, and other times I would kind of fill in between so that the figures could kind of hold each other, even if they weren't on the same flat collaged piece. Another silhouette, the light coming in from here, bouncing off the table and on the floor, and then the light from the outside there as well. So it was to kind of wrap up a lot of the paintings in grad school and the narratives that I had written for them. And I was thinking about how like I could start pulling in more earth tones to the paintings. So working with a lot of like red and purple and yellow. I also kind of think they're kind of like ritual colors for some reason. Like they're almost a little witchy, but I just really loved the like subtle nature of it because it feels natural in the lighting, opposed to some of the other paintings that feel like I'm really putting light in, whereas this feels more warm and inviting. Yeah, so with the collage doubling things, but also like finding moments when I can replicate similar visual things, like the cat having those pointy ears, and then the Lego Batman little, I think it's actually a thermos that's sitting there on the cabinet that also got doubled. It kind of works in to like the compositional rule that I always want something like in threes, or like an even number is not the greatest thing. So trying to have like odd numbers of things or odd pairings of things. So we have three kind of Batmen, and then we have like three groupings of figures. Yeah, there are specific things that I put into paintings. Like I had gone to the Chautauqua residency. That's where I met Mel, and we each got a mug, though we don't both have ours. One got lost, but we have two of those Chautauqua mugs sitting at the top there. During my thesis install for my thesis show at the Krannert Museum, I had more space than probably anyone who's ever had it for their MFA show. I had 2 huge rooms, and these paintings are really big. So they filled up most of the space, and I probably could have made it work with what I had. But I saw this big gap where is like I was heavily featured, Mel was heavily featured, even Hermione was heavily featured in like in a size way. Like we were all like, we had big faces somewhere. But Harvey, who had recently passed, he didn't really have that painting of him. And I had already done a study of this painting. And I knew exactly where it could go. But I had already started installing. So I put everything where I thought it would be. I left a spot where I thought he would go. And I had about a week and a couple of days to build the stretcher, prep it, and make the entire painting. So I had to plan very specifically how I was going to get it done. And one thing that I had kind of been thinking about is how light was a character, but it also like meant something. And since he had passed and I was making this painting, I didn't want it to feel like it was just he was gone, but like he was still kind of living. And I thought that the orange underpainting that I did kind of the initial sketch in could kind of push through the paint and start to kind of hide in between his fur, but it would be his like life force pushing out through the painting. I also think that I got a lot better at painting fur through this, just through like maybe through that need to get so much of it done so quickly that like the wet into wet process, also trying to leave little gaps, made me very specific in my mark making. And I had so much fun creating the texture of his fur. That my leg is here. It doesn't have a whole lot of texture, but the texture of the couch, I think, really is kind of sneaky and sitting there on the corner, and it's kind of pushing through. And then things like the patterning on the rug back there, and even the light coming from an entryway reflecting on the floor. So I had been playing around with texture in a lot of different ways so far, but I think that just this piece kind of started to push me just a little bit more specifically in the direction that I wanted to take the texture. So this painting was the only painting that I made specifically for this show. And it had been something that I was really thinking about painting for quite a while. I had taken the image in a view camera class, so this is like a 4x5 film still that I took, and I set up the lighting. I feel like I probably took longer setting up lighting on this painting than I had ever done in another painting, because it was kind of a play on my daily life and not just a one-to-one. Mel and I had moved into the new house that we were renting, been living together, and with living alone in a house together and not having like other people moving around and making noises that you can kind of just say, oh, it was those people, those sounds from the house kind of creeped us out a little bit. And to go down into the basement, there was a door, and we had hung a fly swatter. And whenever I would go down to see what those sounds were, which were never anything, I always just thought how funny it would be if there was something down there and all I had was the fly swatter. So this is kind of a play on that thing that was happening, but me kind of telling a different story with it. Having this red emitting from the basement, and then the light coming from the inside the house, and then you can see all these different textures from, the fake wood paneling, and the coats and my sweater and jeans all were really fun to paint. And then, of course, just thinking about music and paint and color and repetition and emphasis, like what all of that can do together. The light coming through, creating this repetition of line with a variation in color, and then how that interacts with something that's just kind of booming red from below. And then also just how that yellow fly swatter is really jumping forward. It's almost centered in the frame. I think it's kind of the end of it is centered, and then the top of it is more in line with my head. So there's those like compositional elements happening, all kind of guiding us to the fly swatter. The painting is titled Seeing Red, as if I'm ready to attack, but also I think that the eyes are more of fear than anger or rage.